Hello students, welcome back. In this video, we're going to introduce the core mechanic of our gameplay for Polarity, gravity acceleration, and more importantly, the ability to invert gravity. So our player that's being pulled down to the floor, when they invert gravity, will be able to float up and snap to the ceiling. And then they can invert gravity again and float back down to the floor, and we'll be able to move vertically in the Y direction here. So let's head to our computer screen and we'll dive right into this lesson on gravity and inversion. So I have lesson 3's starter file open here for our core gameplay mechanic of gravity acceleration and inversion. I'm going to minimize the browser here and open this file directly so I can see what I'm working with. So we'll go over here to our Polarity folder, lesson number 3, and I'm going to open up lesson 3's starter file. All right, and so let's see what we got to work with right now. So, all right, we've got our Polarity. All right, press enter to start. So here we are. Whoa, our eye looks a little funny, so our eye's a little funky. Right now, it looks like I cannot invert gravity at all. Gravity is just pulling me down. So no keyboards or presses are doing anything. So the system is broken, but we are going to fix it. We are going to fix it through these 8 missions here in our mission checklist. So what is mission number 1 asking us to do? Well, mission number 1 says we have to add input to flip the polarity direction. Okay, before we get to mission number 1, let's just see, do we have any new constants that we're going to work with? So our gameplay constants. Okay, so it looks like we're going to have some gravity constants that, we're going to target these in mission 6. So we got a variable called gravity magnitude. So that's like the size of our gravity. And then one called flip velocity multiplier. All right, how much velocity flips or snaps on inversion. So like when we flip our gravity, how much of our velocity is going to carry with us in that opposite direction, it looks like. So we've got 2 new variables. Looks like we've got no new colors here to use. All right, so we still just got like our regular colors, neon color down, neon color up, that stuff. Gameplay variables. Ooh, we've got a new gameplay variable of gravity, which is going to keep track of what the value of gravity is. So it looks like we have the magnitude of it. So magnitude, this is kind of interesting. Gravity magnitude is just size. So the size of the gravity is 0.25, but gravity also has direction because gravity can pull us down or it can pull us up. And so we're going to have to figure out what the direction is going to be. So, all right, so that looks pretty good. So now we kind of have an idea of what we're working with here in this video. We got some new variables in play. So let's go to mission number 1. Mission number 1 puts us inside of a function. Ooh, a new function called handle flip input. And it says, add input to flip the polarity direction. Allow WS or arrow keys to change the direction. So we're going to change like the direction of gravity. And if we look, this function is getting called right here. And this line is it's in that key pressed function that P5 offers us. So anytime a keyboard button is pressed on the keyboard, this function gets called. If it's enter, we check to see, hey, are we supposed to switch to our play mode? If it's R, we're going to reset our game. If it's G, we're going to force a lose screen. And then if it's not any of those, right? So if it's not this key, if it's not this key, if it's not this key, let's check. Is the game mode currently equal to play? So if the game mode is currently equal to play and we pressed a key, we're going to call handle flip input. All right, so what do we got to do in here? Well, it looks like we're creating 2 variables. They're constant variables. So over the life of these variables here inside of this function, they're not going to change. And one is called flip up pressed and one is called flip down pressed. So it's almost like we're asking a question. Does the user want to flip gravity up or does the user want to flip gravity down? And right now, those questions are just false. Well, false is always equal to no, so that's not good. So these are going to be Boolean variables that hold true or false values. So we're going to ask a question inside of our parentheses. And so if we want to flip up, right, then what keys could we press? Well, we could press W or the up key. So we're going to check to see, is the key that was pressed equal to W? Or is the key that was pressed equal to capital W, just in case caps lock is on? Or is the key code, and we'll use key code here because we can spell out up arrow because it's not an actual like letter key. So equal to up arrow. So if that answer is any of those things, the answer is yes, then this whole thing is true, and flip up pressed, this variable becomes true. Well, let's do something similar for flip down pressed. We're going to ask a question. So on this time, we're going to use S in the down key. So we'll say, hey, was the key pressed equal to, 3 equal signs for strict equality, S, or 2 vertical bars, was the key that was pressed equal to capital S, or is the key code of the key that was pressed equal to the down arrow, because down arrow is not a letter, so we got to use a key code here. All right, so now I have 2 true or false variables, and then look what we have right here. We says, hey, if, this exclamation point means not. So if we did not trigger the flip up pressed, so we didn't press any of those keys, and, so 2 of these and signs mean and, we did not press the down flip keys. So this whole thing was not true, and this whole thing was not true. Then we are just going to return. And what return does, it just gets you out of the function. It means stop this function dead in its tracks and don't do any of the code that comes after this, like changing the gravity's direction. So it looks like that's sort of like what we need to do here. All right, so let's see. Let's see what happens now if we actually press the W keys or the S keys. Can we do anything? I press W, nothing. I press S, nothing. I press W, nothing. Up, nothing. Down, nothing. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Well, we didn't do nothing. We did some stuff. We set the logic here for the keyboard input. And so that's really important. So now we just got to move on to mission 2. Mission 2 keeps us in this handle flip input function. All right. So if we didn't exit the function, right? So assuming we actually did press W, we actually did press S, we are now going to continue on. We passed this exit point. So now we're going to continue on down here. And mission 2 says, hey, we got to set the velocity of our flip. So it says invert velocity when polarity flips. Create a strong directional response. Okay, so what exactly are we going to do here? Well, we want to flip the player's velocity. So we're targeting the vertical velocity value. Right now, it is equal to 0. Well, setting it to 0 doesn't flip the velocity. In order to flip the velocity, you would take, like, how do I flip the value of 8? Well, I'd make it -8. I'd make it -8. I just flipped it, right? How would I flip -4? Well, I would negate it. I would do -4. And if you negate -4, what that ends up giving you is +4. So all we have to do to flip the velocity is negate the velocity. So I'm going to say, hey, take the player's vertical velocity property, and we're going to negate it by taking negative player.vy. So if the player's vertical velocity was like, I don't know, 10 going up, and we negate it, now it's 10 going down. If it's 10 going down and we negate it, then it would be 10 going up. But we don't want to like automatically take all of the velocity, because that would be a very jarring transition. If you were moving like, let's just say 10 pixels per second down, and then all of a sudden you changed and you went 10 pixels per second up, it would be a quick jarring transition. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply that by one of the constants that we saw earlier, and that is our flip velocity multiplier, which says, let's take like 0.99% of it. So it's going to slightly be less than that. Of course, that number doesn't seem quite right. And so I think we're probably going to have to change that I think it was mission number 6, we saw that we were going to mess with these constants. All right, so now we are flipping our velocity. Let's check it. Can we actually flip? W, S, no. Why not? Well, right now, let's go see what player.vy is. When we restart our game, player.vy is equal to 0. So when we negate 0, it's still 0. We're just stationary. We're not moving. So this brings us to mission number 3. We actually have to update the player's vertical velocity. And so we're going to do that here in our update player function. Update player gets called every single frame of the game. How do I know that? Well, if I go to our P5 functions of setup and draw, inside of the draw function, which runs every single frame of the game, if our current game mode is play, we're updating our world and we are updating our player. So let's target the player's vertical velocity. It says we have to move our player using their vertical velocity. So we're going to change the vertical velocity. The thing that changes velocity is called gravity. All right. So our gravity is the thing that is going to change our velocity. So think of like a change in velocity is known as an acceleration. And when we talk about falling objects, they accelerate due to gravity. So we're just going to take whatever gravity's value is, and we're going to add to it our vertical velocity. Let's see what happens if I just refresh the game now. Okay, nothing is still happening. That's all right. That's okay. It's expected because we're changing the velocity, but we're not actually changing the vertical position of our player. So I'm going to go look at that player object. You guys can stay right here because we're going to come right back to this. But I'm going to go look at our player object. Where is our player object? If you look, they had an X property. That's never going to move. Our player is never moving horizontally. It's the world that moves horizontally. But they need to move their vertical position. And that vertical property is called our attach point. This is where we are attaching in our world. Right now we are attaching to the floor. But if I invert gravity, I want to move that attach point all the way up to right here. Right? We want to move it to the ceiling. But I don't want it to just snap to the ceiling. I want it to change. I want it to be here, then here, then here, then here, then here, then here. And if it gets too high, that's when I'll snap it to the ceiling. So we want to move through that world. So what we need to do is we need to now change, back in mission 3, the player's attach point property. So if a change in velocity is acceleration, a change in our position is what we would call velocity. So to increase the position, we're going to add to it the player's vertical velocity. So to change our velocity, we add our acceleration. To change our position, we add our velocity. It's a nice little relationship that we have here. And so now when we run this, we are going to see as soon as we set this, our gravity is going to increase our velocity. Our velocity is going to increase our position. Let's take a look. Hey, and I just fell off the screen. I guess gravity's working, right? I just fell off the screen, so that's kind of good. What if I press the arrow keys? Well, I can't we have gravity. I mean, this is pretty amazing. We have gravity. We're just falling off the screen. The only problem is I'm not inverting the gravity yet. The W key or the up arrow key isn't changing the direction of gravity, but the gravity system is working. So I'm super happy about that. Let's go see what mission 4 has us do. Mission 4 says, set the gravity direction when the polarity flips. Okay, so this is exactly what we need because right now when we run our game, gravity is going to pull us down, and it does. It just pulls us right off the screen. I want to be able to flip that gravity and have us move up. So let's see how we do that here in mission number 4. Mission number 4 puts us back in that handle file input function. So remember, this is going to get called anytime we press a key on the keyboard that is not enter, R, or G for our debug. And now we check to see, okay, were the keys that pressed either W or S or the up and down arrows? If they were not, we get out of the function. But if we pass that test, now we come right over here. We have wanted to flip the gravity. The question is, what direction do we want to flip the gravity to? Do we want to flip it up or do we want to flip it down? So right now, if you look here, we are just setting it to gravity magnitude, which is 0.25. So gravity is always pulling us down. So I made the positive direction down because in game development, this starts at 0 and you increase going down. So right now, it's always set to the positive version of our gravity. Well, what happens if I negate that? Let's just see if I set it equal to negative. All right. Whoa. So now I can actually press a key, and as soon as I press that key, I accelerate upwards. So there I go. Whoa, that's pretty cool, right? So I reset. If I don't press the key, gravity still is pulling us down. But once I press the key, gravity flips its direction. But I can't get it to come back down. It's always shooting me up in the air. So now I'm like blasting off into space. I'm way up here. I'm off the screen. So I got to be able to like ask the question, hey, do we want to flip gravity up or down and set that to our desired gravity value? Because then we're setting desired gravity equal to that gravity variable. So I got to ask a question here, and we're going to introduce a neat way to ask a question to assign a value to a variable. We're actually going to use a single question mark, and that question mark is called a ternary operator. It's going to say, hey, we're going to ask a question, and the question is going to be something that either answers yes or no, true or false. And I'm going to ask the question, flip up pressed. That variable, flip up pressed, right here, asked a question. It says, was the W key, capital W, or up arrow pressed? If that is the case, if I pressed W, the up arrow, I now want to move upwards. So if this question answered yes, then what we are going to do is we are going to take a value of our gravity magnitude and negate it. So negative gravity magnitude, tab for autocomplete. So if this question answered yes, this value gets stored in my desired gravity. And then what we see here is that we update the value of gravity. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So now what we want to do is say, well, what if this question answered no? What if we didn't press the up key? Well, if we didn't press the up key, we must have pressed the down key, right? We must have pressed S or the down arrow. So we're going to give the value to use for our variable if the answer was no by putting a colon here. So we're going to ask this question. If the answer to this question is yes, we take this value and put it in our variable. If the answer to this question is no, we're going to take the value here. And the value that I'm going to do here is if we press the down key is just going to be gravity magnitude. It's going to be the positive version of this. And we'll put it in our desired gravity formula or desired gravity variable. So this is a really, really nice way to do this. And then let's just look and see what happens. If gravity, the current value of that variable, is equal to the desired gravity. So maybe I hit the down key multiple times, so there was no change in the gravity and what we want to change it to. We just return. We get out of the function, so we don't do any of this stuff like flipping our velocity. But if this is not true, then we continue on and we update the current value of the gravity in our game to be the desired gravity value that we want to switch to. So let's check this out. Can I flip? So I can go up, I can go down. I can go up, I go down. Whoa, hey, this is pretty good, but I'm having a really hard time keeping myself on the screen because I can go off the screen in both directions and I'm just getting faster and faster and faster and faster. So the system's working, but it is working unbelievably badly. So we got to go to mission number 5. Mission number 5, it says we got to provide a lane clamp. So if we look here, this puts us in update player, all right? And it says clamp the player to the ceiling or the floor lanes. Yeah, that would be super, super helpful because right now you saw I was just zooming off the screen top and bottom. So we're going to clamp it so that the player stops when they hit the ceiling line and they stop when they hit the floor line. So they can only move in between the defined ceiling and floor lines. So if we look here, we create a variable called unclamped, and we just set it equal to the player's attach point. So if I restart the game, okay, so right here, the player's attach point, maybe the attach point, it looks like they're attached right here at the bottom. And then when I flip gravity, they're going to start to move up, 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 up. So that attach point, we are increasing, right? We're increasing that attach point. And so the unclamped value is going to equal whatever that attach point is. So that attach point is in transition. It's moving, it's moving, it's moving. So I'm tracking the unclamped value. And what we're going to do is we're going to see at what point does that unclamped value become less than the ceiling line or greater than the floor line. And if that's the case, it means we got to stop moving them. So right now we're taking that attach point and we're just setting it equal to the attach point always. Well, that's not good because that's why the attach point can go bigger than the floor, or if I invert gravity, I'm going to shoot back up. Whoa, it can go less than the ceiling. We don't want that. We want that attach point to be somewhere between the ceiling line and the floor line. And the way that we can do that, we can clamp or constrain that value using a constrain function. So the constrain function takes 3 pieces of information. First, it takes the value that you want to constrain. We want to constrain the player's attach point property. Tab to autocomplete right there. Now, once we set that value, we need to give the smallest possible value that we can use and the largest possible value we can use for our attach points. So let's just do this. Let's put 0 as our smallest value and the height of our canvas as our largest possible value. Let's see what happens. All right, well, we're still going off the screen. Well, that's because we're using 0 and height, and that puts us in our HUD. We don't want that. So what we need to do is we need to target this ceiling line and this floor line. So we're going to say, hey, instead of using 0 and height, let's use the ceiling line. So tab to autocomplete, and the floor line as our attach points. And those were variables that we defined right here. And then when we reset our game, I believe in reset game to defaults, where is it? Reset game to defaults. Yeah, we set the values of the ceiling line and the floor line. So we have access to those. So now we are properly constraining the player's attach point. So if they try to go beyond that, look at that. The player tried falling below that and it said, nope, you can't go above this value here for the Y value, so we're going to attach it. And if I flip, hey, you can't go below this value, so it stops us. And so now I have nice movement here. Hey, this is really good. Except this gravity, I don't know, it just feels sort of funky. Like if I flip midair, I just get hurled down. Like that doesn't seem right. Nah, we gotta mess with these system constants. We got to tune our gravity. So let's go to mission number 6 here. Mission number 6 says, let's tune the gravity related values. These are going to be our constants in our student edit zone. Here it is. We got to tune gravity because right now these numbers just don't feel good to me. And that's exactly where the student edit zone comes into play. So gravity magnitude. I want gravity, I think I want it to be a little bit stronger, right? Like if I flip gravity, it's taken me a really long time to get up there and it's taken me a really long time to get down there. Let's flip it. Let's make gravity a little bit stronger. So I'm going to set it to 0.65 pixels per frame squared. All right. So now if we refresh the game, gravity should be stronger. Whoa. Whoa. Hey, that looks pretty good. That's better. But I don't like my flip velocity multiplier. It's currently set to 0.99. I want to make it like a lot smaller. So I'm going to set it to like 0.35. So this is a measure of how much velocity we keep on our flips. So setting it, so right now it was this here it was at 0.99. You can see I'm keeping like most of my velocity. These midair flips are really difficult to pull off. But lowering it means I'm going to keep less of that velocity. So now when I flip midair, I basically am only keeping a third of the velocity. And so now I can do these sort of like mid-air flips. I can invert gravity in the middle of my play area. And that works really, really great for me. This system feels much, much better. All right, let's come back over here now and let's look at mission number 7. Mission number 7 says we need to target our polarity color. Change the polarity color when flipping. Update the visual state based on direction. Okay, so we got to work with colors. So let's go to our color palette. I'll just click right here over on the sidebar. And here's my color palette. You can see we have neon color down and we have neon up color. So neon down color and neon up color. So the neon down color, I think, is what we're looking at because this has got all like green and blue. That's going to be like a nice cyan, and that's what we see. But there's another color that when we invert gravity, I want to actually invert or change the color of the world. And this is going to be a lot of red and a lot of blue, so it should be like a purple color. So let's see how we can do that. Mission number 7 puts us in handle flip input again. So remember, in here, anytime we press a key, we're going to check to see, was it W or S? If it passes this test, so either W or S, we're going to check to see what the desired gravity is. Do we want to flip gravity up or down? If that was a change in the current state of gravity, then we are going to pass this test. If it's not, we're going to exit the function. And then we're changing gravity, which means we got to flip our velocity. So we're flipping our velocity right there. We're negating it. And now we want to change our polarity's color. So if the desired gravity is less than 0, meaning it is negative, what do we have here? It says we're changing our attach point. All right, so that's fine. Ooh, we have these variables called active polarity color. And right now, they are both set to neon down color. I think that's what we want to target because if I go to my draw functions, and I'm just going to click over here to go down to my draw functions, let's look at draw background. Yeah, inside of draw background, and that's where we're drawing all of these lines. Look what color we're making our marker here using the stroke function. We're using that active polarity color variable. So I just need to change that variable. So let's figure out what we need to change it to. So one of these needs to be neon up color. So when do I want to switch to the up color? Well, this is saying if the desired gravity is less than 0, if it's negative. Well, if we press the up key, then we're storing a negative gravity in our desired gravity. So up is the negative direction. So this means, hey, we want to move up. So instead of setting active polarity color to neon color down, let's set it to neon color up. Ooh, I think this is going to look super, super cool. Let's run this and let's test this out. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to refresh my page, and our world should really come to life now when we press the up key. Nothing. It's not working. It should have worked. I swear, it should have worked. Let's go back and see what we did wrong. I found my problem. It was a silly problem. If you look, I defined two constants in my color palette. I'll go to it as neon down color and neon up color. But in mission number 7, let's just go back to mission 7, I am referencing neon down color, and I said neon color up. I got my variable wrong, so I got to rewrite that as neon up color. We have to be consistent with our naming. So if you name one variable one thing, you got to reference it as that name throughout your whole program. So now that I have that correct, let's see our world come to life. So I'll refresh my page. Let's go up and flip our color. Woo! That's cool. So now we can get different colored effects depending on where we are. And I can flip like mid-air and get this cool color strobing effect. I absolutely love that. Now, there's only one last thing I want to do here, and that's my eyeball seems very weird. My player is always looking up to the ceiling. Even if we're up here, we're looking up at the ceiling. We should probably be looking down now. So we got to change the position of the eyeball based on our gravity. And let's head to mission number 8, and we can target that. Mission number 8 is about drawing that player's eyeball, so it finds us in the draw player function. All right, so what are we going to do? It says move the player eye based on polarity direction. Adjust the eye's position depending on orientation. All right, so if we think about it, I don't really want to change the eye's X position. I like where that is. It's just when we're up here, I want to draw it further down on the player. And when I'm down here, I'm going to draw it kind of a little bit, less down. So here we're only going to maybe draw it like what? Like a third of the way down from the player's top. And here we'll draw it like, I don't know, 3/4 of the way down from the player's top. So if we look, we're setting the IY value that I use to draw the eye right here. So the center of the circle's X value and Y value. The X value is fine. This works for me. But the Y value is not. And so let's figure out what we might want to do here. Well, I think we got to ask a question because we want this value to change depending on what the value of gravity is. So we're going to ask a question. And to ask a question, we're going to use that ternary operator, that single question mark that we introduced earlier in this video. And the question that we are going to ask here is, what is the value of gravity? That value, variable gravity, is it greater than 0? If it's greater than 0, that means we are being pulled down to the floor. So what do I want my IY position to be? Well, let's see. Let's just model it after what we did our X position. So we're going to take the player Y. They don't have a Y variable. Player Y we defined right here, so that's perfect. So we have access to player Y, and we're going to add to it player size, and then we're going to multiply by some decimal. What did we say? We wanted it down like 30%, so we'll do like 0.03. Let's just see how that looks. And then we got to put an or statement to say, or the colon to say what we're going to do if this is not true. So if this is not true, where did we want to position it? I think we wanted to position it like 70% down. So we'll maybe multiply player size by 0.7. So we'll say, okay, we'll take player Y and we'll add to it player size, tab to autocomplete, times 0.7. So let's see if this works. If our gravity is positive, it means we're being pulled down. And so if this answer is yes, we're going to position the YI at our player's Y position plus player size times 0.03. So if I'm down here, player Y is here, plus about player size times 0.03. It's going to put us like right here, about a third of the way down. And if that question answered no, then our gravity is negative, which means we were moving up. So now we're going to position our I at our player's Y position plus about 70% of their size. So here's our Y position, and here's like 70% of our size. Let's refresh this. Let's see if our whole mechanic, our core mechanic of gravity in inverting gravity is set. So here we are. My player's I looks great right here when we have downward pulling gravity. I'm going to flip my gravity. We're going to invert it with the W key. I go flying up, and the I changes as well. So now it looks like he's looking down at the floor, and he's looking up at the ceiling, down at the floor, up at the ceiling. And I can do this mid-air, and his eye just sort of bobbles about. This is perfect. So this is coming along wonderfully. This is a great implementation of our core gameplay mechanic here for Polarity. We now have gravity, and more important, our player can invert that gravity so that we can switch from the floor to the ceiling to the floor and even hover mid-air. This is going to be extremely powerful for us as we begin to introduce different obstacles into our game that we have to avoid in our endless runner. So we will stop here, and I'll see you in the next video.